the floor to the representative of Israel.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to thank Assistant Secretary General Chiari and Dr. Efron for their briefings. I would like to thank the United States for allowing the voices of the hostage families to finally be heard in this council. Michael, thank you for your brave and incredibly powerful briefing. We will do everything we can to bring your brother and all of the hostages home. I must note my disgust at the fact that the Algerian representative could not bring himself to acknowledge Michael and the pain he suffers every day because of Hamas, or even mention the crimes of Hamas in Gaza. As we have reached the end of a very long year, I would like to ask you all to cast your minds back to these past 12 months. The pain and suffering felt by so many, including the families of the 100 hostages still held by Hamas, and the sacrifices made to protect the innocent from terrorists. However, this was also 12 months of immense transformation, and ahead of us lies opportunity. In 2024, the Middle East has become virtually unrecognizable. We continue to dismantle Hamas, and we continue to eliminate any threat that they may pose, and rid Gaza of their terrorist oppressors. Moving north, Hezbollah, once Iran's most vicious and dangerous proxy, has been heavily degraded. Arch terrorists, you remember those names: Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Def, Hassan Nasrallah, Ibrahim Akil, and dozens of others who have caused unimaginable suffering to millions, not only Israelis, have been eliminated. Now, the Assad regime, responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of his own people, has crumbled to dust. It is obvious to all that these are not isolated events. They are all connected, and together they present an extraordinary opportunity for this Council and the world. The chance before us is clear, the chance to finally end the Islamic regime of Iran's aspirations for a Shiite supremacist empire, the chance to liberate the world from the most corrupt, most violent, most destabilizing regime. Israel has acted decisively. We have struck the terror networks that once cast a shadow over our region. But the burden of securing peace does not rest on Israel's shoulders alone. Iran's provocations continue to escalate, with shameless threats about its nuclear ambitions. Its proxies in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Iraq remain active and deadly, spreading chaos far beyond the region. This is not a localized threat. The Islamic regime of Iran is a danger to the entire world. The recent report from the International Atomic Energy Agency on Iran's nuclear progression, alongside the recent letter from the UK, France, and Germany, highlighting Iran's, and I quote, significant non-compliance, were cries for immediate action. This is not about a hypothetical future. The danger is already here, looming on the horizon. The time to act is now. This Council must implement crushing sanctions to suffocate Iran's ability to fund its proxies. You must designate the IRGC, its tentacle of terror, as a terrorist organization. These steps are not optional. They are imperative. The Islamic regime thrives on inaction and indecision. If you fail, if you be silent to act decisively, you are complicit in enabling their campaign of terror. Let me be unequivocal. Israel has no intention of occupying Syria or parts of Syria. We are not empire builders, we are defenders. Defenders of our people, our borders, and our right to live in peace. Our actions are limited and defensive. Madam President, we are now approaching the holiday of Hanukkah. It is a time of reflection and resilience, a time to draw lessons from history. Hanukkah tells the story of two miracles. The first of the oil lasting for 8 days in the temple. It was a divine act beyond human control. But the second miracle, the triumph of the Maccabees over the mighty Greek Empire, was a statement to human courage, to the will of a small but determined people who refused to bow to tyranny. Just 2 weeks ago, we saw a cruel and evil regime also overthrown by the determined population which it had oppressed for decades. We all know what Assad did to his people. And now I want to approach and tell to the brave and the ancient Iranian people, I say to you directly, to the people of Iran, do not miss this rare historic opportunity. Take action now. The people of Israel stand by your side. And I will approach you in your language. Marduma Iran in forsata nadare tarihira as das nadahid. Akdam kunid. Marduma Israel darkanara shuma hastand. I am telling to the Iranian people, we know the cost of freedom and the courage it demands. Your fight is not just for yourselves, but for the millions of lives the regime has destabilized and destroyed. In your hands lies the power to restore the beautiful Iranian nation, to rebuild a land rich in history, culture, and resilience. Madam President, as we reflect on the hope of Hanukkah, we must also confront the unfinished work before us. The scars of terrorism remain fresh. There are still 100 hostages held by Hamas in Gaza, enduring conditions that are beyond comprehension. As we speak, Israel is negotiating for their freedom. Hamas's crimes against humanity are despicable, and yet much of the world remains silent. Colleagues, while we dismantle Hamas's terror network, we continue our humanitarian efforts to ensure aid reaches those in need. Hundreds of trucks enter Gaza on a daily basis. The total aid amount has now reached 1.2 million tons. Just this past Saturday, we coordinated the entry of 5,000 liters of fuel to operate essential hospital systems. Alongside the fuel, we delivered hundreds of boxes of medical equipment and food. Additionally, 36 patients and caregivers were transferred to more stable hospitals in Gaza. Yet, look what happened on the same day. As we delivered life-saving medical aid to Gazan civilians, Hamas terrorists fired rockets just 50 meters from an international aid warehouse. That's the reality we are facing. We will continue to do our work. We will continue to open new aid crossings. We will continue to facilitate aid with our international partners. As we conclude this painful yet transformative year, Israel looks to the future. Each of us are intelligent enough to recognize that there are two sides at this table, and let's be honest about it. One side truly desires a constructive, meaningful, and peaceful future. The other side, however, uses this conflict as a tool to promote their own agendas. Some use it to distract from their conflicts in their own corner of the world. Some use it to sustain their failing organizations, and others use it to serve their domestic political interests. Ultimately, Israel will remain clear-eyed. We will bring back all of our hostages. We will continue to do what is necessary to see that peaceful, constructive future realized, regardless of the noise, the bias, and the agendas we see play out in this room and beyond. I thank you, Madam President.